Hello guys and welcome to a new episode of Sound Design Monday. I am your host Sen's World. Today is Thursday. Obviously, since I delayed Sound Design Monday, I had a lot of schoolwork. That's my excuse, and hopefully you guys practice some sound design over the weekend. I got something new for you guys. We are going to be making these leads from the song Echo by Blasterjaxx. And then we're going to be creating the drop, and I'll be showing you guys the sidechain technique I use for all my tracks. So that's going to sound like. Whoops, here we go. Okay, so for this sound, we're going to be having a click and just a normal saw. So these sounds are going to be really simplistic, so we're going to blow right through these. We're really nothing really fancy here, so hopefully you guys can stick around for like 10 minutes. So let's get started. So these sounds are from one of my sound banks that I am going to be releasing with a new label. So these are the sounds that are going to be on there, so hopefully you guys enjoy these sounds. I'm still going to give them away for free, but I am releasing a sound bank with a label that I will be naming once the date comes closer when the sound bank is going to be released. But for now, we're going to be creating these sounds. And as always, you can download all these patches on facebook.com/SemWorldMusic, and also make sure to support the Evolution of Sound podcast. You can submit your tracks or check out the tracks I got submitted for episode 2. The episode 3 deadline is coming soon, so make sure to submit your tracks in before I have to choose all the songs, and hopefully yours makes it. So let's get started. I do have a candy in my mouth because I am coughing, so hopefully there are no coughs in this video, but if there are, then my excuses. Okay, so the first lead we're going to be creating is called the lead Echo Blasterjaxx. It is going to be a Q pulse, which is a variant of the square wave. Here we have a square. As you can see, the mid line is moved more towards the left, and what that does, it makes the square sound a little bit more higher pitched. And the Q pulse is really popular with Dutch DJs for those old school Dutch sounds. The Q pulse was greatly used, and it's still used for the Dutch leads. So that's just a fun fact for the Q pulse wave. We're going to put 8 voices retrig on. We're going to lower the volume to 6.33. Envelope A, we're just going to increase the release to 2.34, and everything else should be set like that by default. Also at A2, we're going to have a square, 8 voices, and the detunement set to 1.81, and volume set down to 3.48. Now filter A, we're going to have a low pass filter. We're going to leave it like this by default. Make sure it's at 12 dB. Cutoff is set to 3 o'clock. No resonance, no key track. And the last thing we're going to do before we go into the effects section is just put this little technique that I do for almost all my sounds to make it sound a little bit more punchier. To pitch A, since we're not going to go to part B, we're going to increase the pitch by 1.33, and we're going to put a decay on it of 0.23. And what that's going to do is just make it sound more punchy. So let's put the sound. The higher we put it. So you want to set it somewhere where it doesn't alter your sound, but it gives you the effect you want. So this is a technique I've been using, and a lot of sound designers have been using for the new big room stuff to make them sound a little bit more punchy. So we finally go into the chorus. We put a dry and wet of 38%. Delay rate is set to 26.81 milliseconds. The rate at 0.61. Depth at 17%. Dual mode, of course. Feedback on 11.90%, and width all the way up. We're going to reverb with our dry and wet set to 38%. No pre-delay. Down is set to 4.52. Size set to 7.21. And the width is lowered to 86%. Ooh, this cough has been getting me for the past 2 weeks. So we should be done with our first lead. And now on to the super saw. Okay, so now we're going to create the super saw, which is another simple sound. It's going to be really a simple super saw. For oscillator 1, we're going to have a saw with 8 voices, retrig off, and the tunement is set to a little bit before 12 at 4.62. For amp envelope A, we're just going to put the release up to 3.32 to give the super saw a tail. Next, we're going to the oscillator 2, where we'll have a saw with 8 voices. The tunement is straight at 12 at 5.05, and the retrig is off. We got a filter of a low pass, and we're going to leave this by default. Just make sure it's at 24 dB. Don't touch anything. And then in filter control, which is a master control, You're gonna put the cutoff all the way up, resonance stays down, key track down, the warm drive. Finally, the key to creating this sound and making it sound so smooth is in the envelope here. We're gonna put a cutoff A, and we're gonna turn it to the right to 4.00. Attack is 0 to 0, decay to 2.47, sustain at 3.05, and release to 2.70. And finally, we're going to do that other technique again to make it sound a little bit more punchy. Decay is set to 0.29, and we're going to route this to pitch 8. And it's going to be at a value of 7.05. And finally, we're going to the EQ section, where we are going to be putting one pole EQ. Bass is set to 7.50 dB. Bass frequency at 72.57 hertz. The treble is set to 10.21 dB. And treble frequency is like this by default. And once we have that, we should be getting this sound. So finally, we have the breakdown, the main breakdown sound. So now we're going to be creating the drop lead. And we're going to be showing you the sample. And we're going to show you how I sidechain this. And then we'll be done. So we're going to be creating the final lead, which is going to sound like this. Here we go. Why aren't you playing? Okay, so this is how it's going to sound like. With the sidechain on and the saturator, so let me turn these off. It's a very simple sound, really. All we're going to do is put a saw with 8 voices, detuning at 4.38. In envelope A, we're going to turn this into a stab by lowering the sustain all the way down. Decay is set to 6.32 with the release at 1.82. And then we got oscillator A2 with a saw, 8 voices, detunement set to 3.86. And turn the retrigger off, and we're almost done. We're just going to put in EQ. We're going to move the bass, EQ bass to 8.64 dB. And we're going to lower the EQ treble to 5.64 dB. Our reverb is going to be set to 36%, the size of it at 7.50, width all the way up, pre-delay at 12, and no dampness. Once we have that, we have this sound. And finally, we have the main sound of the Blasterjaxx, and I believe they use it almost all their tracks. It's been circling around in a lot of sound design forums, and pretty much we ended up figuring out, and that's the sound. If we increase it up an octave, so it's a pretty cool sound. And finally, once you have those two sounds put together, and then the kick, I couldn't find a kick that was in key with D, so it sounds like shit, but pretty much that's what it is. And finally, I will show you guys how to do a quick sidechain. Many of you guys don't know what a ghost kick is, and pretty much what a ghost kick is a kick that you won't be able to hear, or a snare, you can call it whatever. And pretty much the purpose of this kick is, like, since you're not getting the audio from it, you're getting the activation from it. It's still playing, as you can see, even though it's down. So what that's going to do is it's going to activate your sidechain. And as many of you know, the way sidechain works is whenever there's volume in your sidechain and it goes past a certain amount, it ducks your sounds by however much you set it to. So the reason we use the snare instead of routing it to the big ass kick drum is because with the big ass kick drum you have a whole bar with just pure bass and that click, and what's going to happen is you're not going to get that pumping effect from it. So we use a snare or a clap or a hi-hat. You can use whatever you want as long as it has a fast attack, like here. That's what we're using, and we route it to a sidechain. And pretty much that's how we get the effect. And don't forget your reverb, some saturation, and then a compressor. And we pretty much have the sound. So hopefully that was a helpful tutorial for you guys. As always, the sidechain goes, the way you're going to put it in is you're just going to put in whatever you called it, sidechain or pussy, whatever you called it. You're going to put it on, and it's still going to, even though you have the volume on the mixer set down, it's still going to activate here. So all you do is just lower it down. And then do however you guys do your sidechains. Of course, there's other ways to do sidechains. There's no right or wrong way. There's only your way. And as long as you get the effect you want, then that's all that matters. But this is just a quick tip for you guys that are starting out. I'm sure many of you guys know what a ghost kick is already, and hopefully you guys are utilizing them. So anyways, guys, this has been a great tutorial. Hopefully Blasterjaxx will be proud of me. Make sure to follow me on Facebook. All these presets will be up on there. And I guess I'll be seeing you guys next week, or maybe I might make a video in between Monday and this Thursday. Who knows? Maybe a video about, maybe some drops. Maybe,